I'm Londa Rolfing. My passion is creative sewing. I share that on my blog, on my social media channels, and now in teaching at my sewing studio at my home. If this were a neckline of a jacket, there's two different ways that you could put a long piece down the front. This is a way that's been done for many, many years. It's simply a nice cardigan finish neckline with a long piece of fabric, not too wide. But if you took a piece that was much wider, if you instead had the finished edge be what is joined to the jacket and bound at the center front, you could make it much wider. But what has to happen is that it folds at the back neck because your neck isn't that tall. And when it does that folding, it does this really nice tuck right here at the center front. Let me show you that on a jacket. This jacket is indeed a 9-inch width piece of a pashmina scarf. And do you see what a nice pretty fold that makes right up there? Now when you do the same thing out of a knit fabric, there's a little bit of give. On this upcycle jacket, this University of Tennessee fabric was actually from a pair of PJ pants. But since there's some give, that tuck effect happened lower on the jacket. Also on this jacket, I want to point out the very popular style in ready-to-wear these days that I call the cascade front. I'll show you exactly on a pattern how that works. And you can also see that same effect here on this jacket. Do you see? Really what it amounts to is that there is more width than what is needed to fill in this part of the jacket, so then it falls down in that pretty cascade. So here you have your front pattern piece. If it's on a jacket, what I do is I figure out where do I want it to attach on my body. So that's my horizontal seam line. And then I drop a vertical about 3 inches from the center front. So I draw those in, and those are my seam lines. Then I would take this piece and cut it out, but I would cut it out leaving a seam allowance on this part of it, because when you join it back together, you have to have a seam allowance. So this green part is basically what I cut out of here, but I've added a seam allowance to it at the top. Adding the seam allowance is something you can't forget. So do you see this fills in this? But if I make this piece much, much wider, how much wider? This much wider plus. So this much wider plus a little bit more. Look and see what happens here. When I would sew this to this point, and then this is that infamous inside-outside corner, this extra length gets sewn down here vertically, creating this cascade front. So you see, you really want it to be at least that long. If this were longer, that would be okay. I could cut it off, so always make this plenty wide. So I hope that's clear to you. You can also see that same effect on the top that I have on. If this were a top, you could bring this all the way across. You could even do it at an angle, as my top is, and then create that long piece. And that long piece can be whatever length you want it to be. And then it could also have a seam at the center front, like my top has, or if you had enough fabric, that could even be cut on a fold. You have to kind of get your head around it, but that's the principle. More width than length creates a pretty cascade.